your case. As he's reading your case, come up to the microphone here. And when he's done, give us your name and any information you think that we need that pertinent to your case. Then we'll ask if there's anybody here in favor of your project. We'll ask if anybody's here opposed to it. Then we'll close the meeting to public comment and we'll make a decision at that time. Okay, Matt?
All right, just a little bit of housekeeping. If you do require a permit for your project and it is approved, they don't know what's happening in the office right here, so you can't go straight over to get a permit, but you can pull it as early as this afternoon. We'll have the files back there so they'll know what's going on, or you can always apply online. Just do make sure you have all your documentation as well. With that, we can pick up the two continued cases. First one we have is continuance of variance 2025-97 for Jeffrey Katzer. And this petition for a variance which permit allowing a pond to remain 70 feet from the east property where ordinance requires 200 feet from an adjacent ag property. Property is located on the northwest side of Levi Lee Road and 2,091 feet southwest of County Road 100 East in Plain Township. Right there's the site plan, Randy. Right there, we are out on Levi Lee. Looking around the area, just giving a rough idea of where we are at, just past where the power lines and the river cross Levi Lee, or the ditch rather. Looking at Acorn Estates would be right there. Coming back around Tishner's property, back the lane. Next shot's gonna be back in the lane. Right there's the pond in question. Again, per the zoning ordinance, pond should be 200 feet from any agriculturally zoned piece of ground. In this case, petitioner is 70 foot from the property line and is asking to allow it to remain. As with any pond, if you would approve the variance, the pond or ordinance does require a sign-off affidavit. That's not a condition necessarily. That's just an automatic requirement of the ordinance. So that owner to the east will have to sign an affidavit as well. So for the original hearing, we were properly advertised and notified and good to go.
So I'm supposed to state my name, sorry. I'm Jeff Katzer, and basically trying to get this pond in kind of recreational project.
Saying 70 feet.
Yep.
He's wanting 20-foot variance.
20 foot. Yeah. That was a typo there, Randy. It is 70.
Okay.
It is 70.
Why did you dig it where you're at?
I guess I didn't think much of it because that's a lower area of the property, and if I would dig it somewhere else, I'd have to go way down to hit water.
It is considered an IDEM wetlands.
He is just out. We have had contact from IDEM. We actually reached out to him knowing that the wetlands were there. IDEM took a look at it. They concerned, but it's not one that they will pursue as long as it's not expanded any further into the wetlands.
Okay. I do know we have one Romano Street from the
Correct.
neighbor that owns property to the east.
Correct.
And to get it approved, you would have to have him do the sign off.
Yes,
Understand that?
yes.
So I think what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go ahead and approve it as presented. But you're gonna have to get the sign off. You can't dig any more on the pond. You can't expand it any more. And the area around the pond's gonna have to be stabilized. The banks are gonna have to be stoned or whatever.
Yeah.
Slope.
Get the cementation leveled out and yeah.
So you mean so it's not a drop off?
Right. So you don't get continual erosion into the wetlands off to the sides, get those mounds that we had out there stabilized, leveled out.
Okay.
And then ideally plant it with something just to keep that.
You're talking about the dirt pile.
Correct.
So,
Correct.
That is kind of a low area, so that wouldn't, any erosion would be withheld to that small area where that pond is.
Well, it's going to flow off to the north and west where the wetlands are. And that's the whole idea, keeping it from going into the wetlands.
And after you get the sign off and that, well, you're gonna have to pay a permit fee of $125 for an after-tax permit.
Okay,
And since it was a legal violation, and the county attorney had to send you a letter, you're gonna have to pay for his services. And that's gonna be another $80.
okay,
Okay? So at this time, I will approve it with them conditions.
okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
As far as the neighbor, if you want to stop in, I can get you a copy of his email. It's actually got his phone number on here. That'll give you a chance to have some contact.
Okay, so stop in at the area.
Sometime this afternoon. Yep.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
You're welcome. Fly by the seat. Come on. You want to say comments? Is McGlennon here? Yeah, I didn't see him. Bump him down and go from there, I suppose. Catch that up. All right, with that, then we can jump down to variance 2025-120 for Diane Tola. In this petition for a permit which allow a residence addition extension of a deck 2 feet out to be constructed 32 foot from the water's edge. Property is located on the northeast side of Core Road South and 330 feet east of Norman Drive in Turkey Creek Township. Right there is petitioner's property. The video right there, you're looking at the site plan. You can see how there is a notch out right there, Randy. If you look in the site plan, pretty obvious what they're looking at doing. We're up on Papakichi and lakeside of the petitioner's property right there, 2-story deck. And looking around, you can see pretty well view is not an issue. How that shoreline is staggered and everybody's angled through there. Looking down the other way, back to it. Next shot's just going to be up, giving you a little bit different perspective of the deck right through there. So again, that railing would be 2 foot out further towards the water's edge. And you can't even see it.
Amazing.
Wait, it's your property.
I mean, that you have all that.
Oh, for the hearing, legal I did properly appear in the newspaper and by affidavit surrounding owners notified.
My name's Diane. Hello. And yeah, I just want to extend.
It's squared up.
Diane, is it being enclosed? Is the upper deck or lower deck being enclosed? There was
I
a.
am going to put a roof on it.
Okay.
I don't know that I'm going to enclose it.
Okay, that was the exhibit. We need clarification there. So that was in the file as well.
Mhm.
But again, no closer than that 2 foot out portion.
Okay, thank you. Is anyone here in favor of this project?
Nothing on file.
Anyone here opposed? We'll close the meeting to public comment. I'm gonna go ahead and approve it as presented
Thank you.
to fill that 2 foot notch in.
And the porch area up above.
Yeah,
And then I still need to get a.
Do need to get a permit. So anytime from this afternoon on. You're welcome. All right, next case we can hear is variance 2025-121 for Derek and Jennifer Mast. Okay, come on up. Petition for variance with permit allowing a pond to remain 60 feet from the north property line and 120 feet from the rear property line. Ordinance requires 200 foot to a property. Property is located on the east side of 1000 West and 2,386 feet north of State Road 19 in Scott Township. Right there's the petitioner's property in question. Here on the aerial, that shows the pond better. we found the pond. We are actually called out to the property to do a certificate of occupancy. That's where we confirm that the build and the property meet the ordinance compliant requirements at the time of completion, typically for a bank to release funding. That time we noticed that there was a pond checked. We could not find any permits on file for it. Did contact the contractor and said, hey, we got an issue. So they moved forward, got us the site plan as well as survey showing the pond. What they are asking to do now is to leave the pond as placed 60 feet from the north property line. There's actually 2 properties to the north. If approved, they'll have to get sign off for, and then 120 to the east, and that's 1 single owner there. For this hearing, legal ad did properly appear in the newspaper and by affidavit. Surrounding property owners were notified.
Pepper Mass. The pond came about because when we went to build our home, we have a basement, and when they went to build it, they realized that they needed to build higher than they originally thought. Needed fill dirt instead of hauling it in. Contractor said, "Are you okay if we dig a pond?" We're like, "That's fine." Contractor, we didn't know anything about an ordinance or a permit or anything like that. Our builder and contractor and excavator were doing all of the work. They were unaware. They've done work in Kosciuszko County for a long time, so they weren't aware of it. We did not become aware that it was an issue until they came out and contacted the builder, and then the builder said, "Hey, this is what we have to do to move forward. We would like the pond to remain as is if possible."
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone here in favor of this project?
We do have one letter from Brian and Maria Bontrager. I think those are the owners to the east,
West.
west. Okay. Just in favor.
Okay, is there anyone here opposed? Close the meeting to public comment. I'm gonna go ahead and approve it as presented, but you'll need to get the sign off from them neighbors.
Okay. And tell me how that.
Come on up. Okay, there's an affidavit here for each one of those owners. There's 3 separate owners. You've got
Okay.
2 to the north because there's a small strip and the farm field north of them.
Okay.
Okay. And then the one to the east, which is Wilbur and Judy.
Okay.
Okay. They'll need to sign this from Notary Public and then get this back to us, and then still do need to get the permit.
Okay.
Okay. So
Is there a time frame on that?
typically 30 days from the hearing. Okay. So if for some reason you couldn't get a hold of one, let us know, but otherwise get those done. And we do have notaries. So if one of them wants to come into the building and do it, they can do that. Whatever the case is.
How was my contact information? Because like this little strip that you're talking about, I
Yeah.
have no idea.
Best we have there is a mailing address, so we can get that for you if you want.
Okay, where do I get that?
Stop in the office and we can get that for you.
Okay.
Our office on 3rd floor of the county courthouse.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay,
You're welcome.
and there also will be an after the fact permit for you.
Okay, so I can get that when I go over this afternoon to get the information.
Well, we can't issue the permit until we've got all that.
Oh, okay,
Yep.
okay,
But you may want to talk to your contractor too, because if they should know.
okay.
So that's up to you
I'm
though.
here now for
Yes,
sure.
yes, they are.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, next one can hear is variance 2025-123. Excuse me, for Steve Jackson. And this is a petition for variance which permit allowing an awning to remain 34 inches to adjacent mobile home and 28.7 feet from the water's edge. Property is located on the north side of Backwater Road. and 142 feet east of W25 lane in Tippecanoe Township. That is not the home right there. That was the home we had a hearing for last month. If you remember right, we're in the same park. And we are actually on the adjacent, just looking around the park, Backwire Road right there with the tubes, going through, coming back around. I don't know why it keeps cutting out. Right there, Randy. For some reason, the TV's, if you look up there, right there, we're talking about that awning on the left-hand side. What they're wanting to do is allow that to remain as constructed, 28.7 from the water's edge and 34 inches from the adjacent mobile home. For the hearing, legal ad did properly appear in the newspaper and by affidavit. Surrounding owners were notified.
Steve Jackson.
Right.
Steve, just because we're kind of into the second one, actually 3 out there. I think this is the last one getting resolved. Has the property owner have they been involved? I know you guys are renters. Have they told you about any of the regulations out there at all? Or okay, so that's kind of what's brought us to the point we are. Yeah.
When they was doing the construction, they didn't interfere.
Yeah, that's kind of the frustrating part. And I'm sure for them too.
Well, we granted the one last month.
Yeah.
Yours is no different. So I'm gonna go ahead and approve it as presented. And you'll have to pay an after the fact permit fee of $145.
Take 145.
125.
Okay?
So just sometime after this afternoon, come on in the next 30 days, pull the permits,
Right.
and then that'll get you guys square.
All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome. All right, next two we can take together, separate questions, same property, however. First one we have is variance 2025-124 for Abigail Sanger. And this is a petition for variance which permit allowing a deck to remain as constructed. Is Sanger here? Okay, good deal. By previous owner, 4.3 feet from the south access easement. Property is located on the south side of Hatchery Road and 879 feet east of 850 East in Turkey Creek Township. Along with that, we have variance 2025-125 for Abigail Sanger. And this is to allow a 6-foot tall east of County Road 850 East in Turkey Creek Township. Randy, right there's the deck, Hatchery Road and 879 feet east of County Road 850 East in Turkey Creek Township. Randy, right there's the deck and the fence shown on the survey. That shows it real well what we're dealing with. Both structures were built by the previous owner. New owner was contacted, said, hey, looks like we got some issue. Easement comes off of the main road, comes back, services the homes in that area. This is the dead end. She's at the dead end. You can see 1, 2, 3 there. You've got a home to the north that accesses off of it. Otherwise, they are the only users. The deck as it sits 4.3 feet from the sideline. Fence, if you look at the survey, actually is angled.
Yeah.
Yep. And parts on, parts off. Looking at the area, I can definitely understand why the fence is there. But the part that's off, that's a little bit more difficult. But you can see the part that's on as it's shown right there. Back around to the petitioner's home. And deck and shed, or deck and fence right there. For the hearing, legal ad did properly appear in the newspaper and by affidavit surrounding owners notified.
Hello, my name is Abigail Sanger. Like he said, I am just requesting that I can keep the deck and the fence how they are when I purchased the property. The neighbor that lives next to me, Burton, he helped the previous owner build both the deck and the fence. And he has said to me that he would also like to keep the fence how it is.
And it looks like a section of it is off your property, actually on his.
Yes. He told me it was my fence, but it
Okay.
is partially sitting on his
They,
property.
they didn't know where the line was is what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what she'd need would be a sign off from him, leaving the fence as is.
I'd say that would be, and if ever replaced, then it has to be moved to the line.
Yeah, then we'll need. Okay. Okay, thank you. Is there anyone here in favor of this project? Anyone here opposed to it? Close the meeting, public comment. I'm gonna go ahead and approve it as presented with a sign-off letter from the neighbor about the fence
So,
being in the right of way.
yeah, so basically a letter from Burton saying he has no objections to the fence remaining as it is. That way we can document it on file. And then you will need to get a permit for the deck still.
Yeah.
But because you are the second owner, it's only a $10 permit fee. So just sometime within the next 30 days, get all that together and come on in and we'll get you squared away.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, next one we can hear, and I apologize in advance because I'm going to murder the name. Variance 2025-128, Thomas Jackham. All right, good. Petition for a variance which would permit the construction of a 24 by 26 garage, 13 foot 9 inches from the right of way of the road and 8 feet from the side property line. Property is located on the east side of Oak Street and 0 feet north of a no-named road in Wayne Township. Right here is the petitioner's property. We're out in Goose Lake. And you'll recognize the area when I swing around. But essentially, there is the no-named road. You can see the paved drive going back, actually services 2 homes beyond the petitioner's home. Panning around, you'll remember that shed and the home just across the road. We had a hearing on that a couple months back. They're going to do some renovations to that. Goose Lake out there, coming back around the petitioner's lower area. And the home. Next shot's going to be back in the drive. So right in that area, you can kind of see the stakes there is where they're proposing to build the garage. And it's going to be 13 foot 9 inches from the edge of the road, or from the right of way, I'm sorry, and 8 feet from the sideline. Panning them back around. Neighbor to the, back off to the east. He's really the only one beyond the property. And then this owner off to the south, those are the only other 2 owners that do access off this no-named road. So again, you can imagine the garage going right in there at an angle as shown on the site plan. And for the hearing, legal ad did properly appear in the newspaper and by affidavit surrounding owners were notified.
Hi, I'm Lori Jeffem, and that's my husband. I would like to build a garage there. We have asked all of our neighbors, they've signed the affidavits, they've agreed that it's not an issue for them. So we'd like permission to do so, please.
Well, it shows you're building it on an angle. What's the reason for that? You can't square it.
There is the light post, this light post that you see right here, the electric pole, and then there's a well that sits, my well sits a little further back. And we are 7 feet, I think, from the actual wellhead. It's further back. I know the grass is.
It's good.
Oh, can you see it right there? If you go up, see the.
Right there in the upper
back
right-hand
there.
corner,
Okay.
Randy. And when you're saying light pole, you're not talking the one,
This one right in front
Yes,
of us.
the
This
utility
is the-
pole.
The utility
Utility
pole.
pole.
Sorry.
okay, nope, you're fine.
I gotta say, a lamp post can be moved really
Yeah.
easy.
Yeah, that we're hoping
Utility pole's a little harder,
Yeah.
definitely.
to.
And a little more
the
expensive.
electric in the-
Yeah. they'll move it, but
So, yeah, so there's the wellhead, and this is the only place we can put it. Towards the front of the property is our, septic.
okay,
Okay,
that's,
So this is
was gonna be the
only
next
place
question.
we can put it.
okay.
Disturbing.
Okay, that was the questions I had. Okay, is there anyone here in favor of this project? Anyone opposed?
Nothing on file.
Close the meeting to public comment. And we've got to go ahead and approve it as presented.
Just sometime in the next, whenever you're getting ready to start, come out and get the permit first.
Oh, we will. Thank you. so
All right,
much. You'll have a great day.
you as well. I do not know what's up. Okay. All right, next one we can hear is variance 2025-131 for Joseph Martin, and this petition which permit the construction of a detached garage 17 feet from the North Road right-of-way. Property is located on the east side of East Street and 148 feet south of South Street in Tippecanoe Township. We are within the town of North Webster, and right there is the petitioner's property in question. Randy, here is the right-of-way. Actually, it acts as a secondary to most of those, but it is improved, is a right-of-way from the town. What the petitioner is proposing to do is build a detached accessory building that will be within 17 feet of that north right-of-way. You can kind of see from perspective the house and where the building will go. Right there's the house in question. And again, we are in North Webster right there. So if you can imagine, out front would be where the garage, looking to the south. State Road 13 would be just up and over these homes. Looking to the north, if it would stop cutting out. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
And back around. So again, right there in the foreground is where that building will be built as shown on the site plan, in between that circle drive and the house. For the hearing, legal ad did properly appear in the newspaper and by affidavit surrounding owners were notified.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Joe Martin. I want to move, the garage off to the north of the property for kind of aesthetic purposes, not block the entire view of the home itself. And also for functional, because the existing driveway, I need to have room to turn in and or park vehicles there. And I kind of, on the aesthetic part, wanted to line it up with the northmost part of the main part of the home there. So it'll be, there'll be a 1 foot overhang. So the 17 feet is actually, the building will be 18, and I accounted for that. I had a survey done a couple of years ago, so I know where the north property line is. Matt asked me about that previously.
So that sunroom though will sit closer, correct?
Sunroom will sit closer,
Correct.
and
Okay.
it may go away at some point.
Okay.
Okay, is there anyone here in favor of this project? Anyone here opposed?
We-
Okay, we'll close the meeting to public comment. And since it's closed the meeting to public comment, and since it's gonna be basically in line with your house, we're gonna go ahead and approve it as presented. Okay,
Just sometime when you're getting ready to start, come get the permit.
Okay, thanks again.
You're welcome. Okay, next two we can hear together, same property, slightly different questions. First one we have is variance 2025-132 for Heidi Orr. Is Orr here?
Yeah.
Okay, and this is a petition for a variance which permit the placement of a new residence 27 feet from the water's edge. Property is located on the north side of EMS B8 lane and 1,000 feet west of State Road 13 in Tippecanoe Township. Along with that, we have variance 2025-133 for Heidi Orr. And this petition for variance which permit the placement of an accessory building 28 feet from the water's edge. Property is located on the north side of B8 and 1,000 feet west of 13. Right there is the property in question, Rand. That is not the house. Get the video caught up here. Still not the house. That's the house right there. So that plan is that house goes and new home is constructed. And that's actually a duplex. Exactly. There's actually 2 residential units on there at one point. I'm not even sure how it's being utilized now, looking down. Okay.
And it's not a duplex, they're separate.
It,
They're cornered.
right. Duplex, it was 2 residents. It's kind of a weird situation
Yeah.
for years. Ultimately though, that goes minimum setback from the right of way is 25. That's being met. The only relief they're looking for is 28 from the water's edge. House right there. The next shot's going to be a little bit further over where that shed would go. And there, they're proposing a 26 by 32 shed. Again, meeting setback from the right of way, 28 foot from the water in line with the house. And the next shot's going to be back around the water just to kind of give a little bit more perspective back there. One question I do, the other 2 sheds on the property, do those go as well? Or are those staying?
They're
Don't-
staying with the sale, is that what
Oh.
you mean?
Well, what's the plan, I guess?
I guess the
Okay.
metal one's probably going.
Okay.
And I don't know about the wood.
You'll see those in the
They're
bid.
probably both going.
Okay. And that's actually a pump house right there.
Yes.
So I would imagine goal is try to get that
Any of
inside.
them anymore.
Not too many. There's
You
a,
know, too.
not a great idea to have, especially year round. So you can see pretty well in line with what else is out there.
Yeah.
And
It is.
one way or another, this is something needs to happen on this thing. This thing's probably,
And it would be an improvement.
yeah. So
For sure.
for the hearing, legal ad did properly appear in the newspaper for both and by affidavit. Surrounding owners were notified. There's the metal shed we were
There's the
referencing.
metal shed,
Yep.
yeah. Cedar special.
Exactly. You're on.
Good morning, I'm David Broski, speaking on behalf of Heidi. The property's for sale. I made an offer on it contingent on your guys' approval of the plan and a survey. That's it.
So you are getting a survey too?
As soon
Good.
as this is done.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Well, thank you. Is there anyone here in favor of this?
Yeah, go ahead and have a seat, Mr. Broski.
Give your
And
name.
My name is Lon Sloan. We're in B8 right behind this property. And it's been unkept for several years. So we think it is going to be a big improvement. We just had a question. Is this going to be a stick-built house? And is it going to be a metal? We don't know the difference between a garage and an accessory building.
a garage is an accessory essentially. So whether it's a garage or a shed, the size is what it's under the allowable size. So I don't know I'll let him answer what they're going to utilize it for when he's done.
As far as the utility building, I was looking at full barn style, which would match the residence, the home. We had it decided, this is like a 4-year plan to retire out there. So we're gonna try to, we may tear one down. We're gonna try and use one for 4 years until the mill, but we are definitely having. Part of the home, we had to decide on modular or stick built. Cost differences.
So out of the 2 units, you're going to plan to keep one for 4 years, then build? Is that right? I
That's
understand.
probably the plan. We gotta go through and see what we can do. That's probably the ultimate plan. One, clean one up, maybe tear that one out with the carport on it. And go from
See
there.
that one
First thing
a lot
we
closer.
do, first thing would be fix it. Within our lot.
And you, for the dogs? Is that what you said?
Yeah, for the
Okay.
dogs.
Thank you. And we're all 4 neighbors there.
Okay,
Concerned what it's going to look like.
Yeah.
it'll be better than that.
Thank you.
Yeah, that being said, that's a lot. No, you're right, you're right.
Okay. Hey, anyone else?
Nothing on file.
Opposed or-
I have one more thing. I do have a place on B60 right now. And that's me to keep your eye on that.
Okay, we'll close the meeting, to public comment. Go ahead and approve it as presented. 'Cause it's gonna be an improvement to the neighborhood.
And it's consistent with the setbacks. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you guys very much.
You're welcome. All right. We still got one to go? Nope, you're, okay. Next one we've got is variance 2025-135 for Larry and Stella Hollingsworth. And this is a petition which will permit allowing the construction of a residence addition 12 feet from the right of way of the road, staying in line with the existing house. Property is located on the south side of Huntington Street and 210 feet east of East Street in Tippecanoe Township. Right there's petitioner's property. We're back in North Webster. And what the petitioner is looking at doing is adding on, as it shows right there, Randy, in line with the existing house. Just give you a perspective of where we're at. You can see the petitioner's home right there, drive that goes up into the house. Looking back down, State Road 13 would be back down about 2 blocks. Coming back around, looking to the north. Looking down the road towards the Dixie. And petitioner's property. Next shot's going to be up on the petitioner's drive looking down towards the lake. So you can kind of see how it's tight in there. Next shot's going to give you a little bit better perspective though. Existing house is at 12 is what the petition is. You can see I'm up on the hill now. There is a decent hill. Okay, next shot. So there, if you can imagine that addition coming straight out in line at 12 foot from the right of way. For the hearing, legal ad did properly appear in the newspaper and by affidavit surrounding owners were notified. You're up.
Good morning. My name is Stella Hollingsworth. And I don't know, I guess what to say.
So Stella, right there in that picture there,
Yes, sir.
that's a porch, I'm assuming right there.
Yes,
Is it coming out in line with the porch or is it going to step back to the house part?
it is coming out directly in line with the porch.
Okay, okay,
And it's going to be connected through a breezeway where that is going to be enclosed, the existing porch.
yep,
And then we'll build a breezeway that's also enclosed
okay.
and the addition.
And still, you know where your lines are.
I do.
Good, good.
Is there anyone here in favor of this project? Anyone here opposed? Close the meeting, public comment. I'm going to go ahead and approve it as presented, staying straight in line with the other house.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Have a great day.
You as well. All right, next one is 25, variance 2025-136 for Susan Nixon. And, all right, and that's a petition for a variance which permit allowing an existing porch to be screened in and doors installed 7 feet from the interior road. The property is located on the north side of B15 lane and 0 feet from State Road 13 in Tippecanoe Township. Right there's petitioner's property in question. It's now called Fox. It's now called Fox's Landing. Yeah, Fox Landing. We've had a number of different hearings down there, Randy. What they're looking at doing is enclosing that existing porch, very similar to a hearing we had just last month. That is at 7 feet from that road right away right there. That is a EMS lane. Looking around the area. Home outside the park right there. Road down to the lake. And the unit we actually acted on about 3 down there. Coming back around. And we'll pause it right there. So again, enclosing that porch as it sits. For the hearing, legal ad did properly appear in the newspaper and by affidavit surrounding owners notified.
Good morning. My name is
Morning.
Jason Nixon. Obviously, I'm not going to ask her to stand. Yeah, we just purchased this property 2 seasons ago. We now have a 1.5-year-old grandson. So I'm just wanting to screen in that existing deck and put 2 screen doors in there so that we can keep him in confined and add some value to the property.
Yeah, you're just talking screening.
Yes, sir.
Not solid walls.
Oh, no. Just the roll out screen.
Yep.
Gonna tack her up there, put 2 screen doors on there, a little bit latch to keep my grandson in, keep bugs out. That's what we're looking to do.
You don't like the bugs?
Not particularly at night, no.
Okay. Is there anyone here in favor of this project? Anyone here opposed? We'll go ahead and approve it as presented.
Thank you.
Just need to come get a permit before you start.
Okay, yep, no problem. Thank you, sir.
Said they're possibly done by this afternoon.
So we'll be done with the hearings. When you come in to pull the permit, it will take us a little bit of time to do it up. So, yeah, you're welcome to come in this afternoon to pull the permits.
Okay, yeah. we can do that.
Now, one thing to keep in mind, have you talked to the sewer district yet?
Yes.
Okay, because that can take a little time if you don't have that, so.
We did that prior to.
Very good. Yep, probably sometime afternoon.
Okay, thank you, sir.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, next one we have is variance 2025-137 from Ben Johnson. And this is a variance which will permit allowing a 12-by-16 shed to remain as placed by previous owner 8 foot 9 inches from the side property line. Property is located on the south side of Rivercrest Drive and 0 feet west of Walnut Creek in Wayne Township. Right there is the petitioner's property in question, Randy. We are out in Melody Acres, and there's the shed in question. You can see that shed. It's right there on the back southwest corner. What the petitioner is asking to do is leave it. It was placed by a previous owner. First thing we did check, made sure there was no easements back through there on either side. There are no utility or drainage easements in this case, so that is just a regular sideline. Panning around the neighborhood, river will be right back behind those homes. And coming back around to the shed in question. So again, asking to leave that shed as placed by previous owner. For the hearing, legal ad did properly appear in the newspaper and by affidavit surrounding owners were notified.
Good morning.
Morning.
Ben Johnson. I'm just here to clear up a surprise left by previous owners.
That happens a lot.
I'm sure it does.
Good thing is it's not an easement. That we've
Yeah.
run into too many of those where we don't have a lot of options. So
Okay. Yeah. Is there anyone here in favor of this project? Anyone here opposed? Close the meeting, public comment, and go ahead and approve it as presented.
Okay.
You'll have to get a permit,
Yep.
but it's
All
not
right.
going to be an after the fact permit because you didn't do it.
Second owner.
Second owner, so.
Okay.
Okay,
Good enough.
Wait.
Appreciate it.
Did you sell the old 30 property?
No, that's my grandma's.
Oh, I thought you had that. All right, never mind.
No, I'm not here to have
Okay, good. Good.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Used to be our maintenance guy. I didn't even put the name together. Okay, next case we can take up is exception 2025-52 for Brandon and Stephanie Cloud. And this is a petition for a home-based business allowing sales and service of pressure washers and waste oil heaters in an ag district. Property is located on the north side of 650 South and 0 feet east of 650 East in Monroe Township. Right there's some petitioner's property. They have a 20-acre piece. Area that's shown in red is roughly where the business operations are going to take place in relation. Here's their home. There's the business operations with a building proposed. Starting at the driveway, go straight back. Petitioner's home would be back in that area right through there, looking off to the east, to the south there. You got to be going there to get there. This is not a road you go down for any other reason.
Well, we're actually, if you see, we're on the corner of
Yep.
650 and 650. So actually,
Zooming in. Yep.
650 East is actually the road that we're wanting to come
Yep,
up.
next shot's gonna be down that way.
Sure.
Okay, next shot now, I'm down at the corner looking up. So this would be that area roughly where the operations end does drop off pretty significantly down there to a county tile. Just panning around.
Got the set aside to the south of us there. Mr. Wilcox owns.
Freeze it.
That would be the closest neighbor right there to where we're wanting to do this at.
The building would be right on top of that. We're gonna flatline it.
That flat plateau. Okay.
So the,
For the hearing, legal, I did properly appear and affidavit surrounding owners were notified. Now you're on.
thank you.
Name.
I'm Brandon Cloud.
Stephanie Cloud.
Long story short, so EF Rhodes and Sons is 70 years old. We're 40 years old, I'm sorry. We're looking to put the business, essentially. Our half of the business, we are purchasing, inheriting, and we need more space. The other half of the business, family business, has expanded to a point where they need the space that we're consuming. So we're wanting to move the business to our property. We don't really need a commercial storefront, so to speak, because 90% of our business is on the road at the customer's job site. We're literally just looking for a building we can do some service work in, store our equipment. But like I say, in our vehicles, the majority of the work that we do in the business is out on the road on the customer.
More service and.
Correct. We do some in-house, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Things though, we have a semi truck that comes maybe once a month to drop off equipment. Two things though, there are two other businesses on this road already that have been there for a pretty long time. Mike Sellers owns a generator business down there, so he sees a semi truck maybe once a month, probably about what we would be. Went across the road to the Rushes there, and we've had a really good relationship for as long as we've lived here. And he's actually wrote a letter and signed a letter. He's 100% on board with it. His house is the closest. I mean, he's going to be looking at the building out his front door, but he is very in favor. In fact, asked if he could help. So he's very on board with it. Talked to the neighbors to the south. He's very on board with it. The neighbor to the north was not around. He has another property that he stays at a lot of times, so he's kind of hard to get a hold of. He's not in and out too often. That'd be Westness. But I'm very certain he's not going to be opposed to this at all. So,
Brandon, a couple questions I had. Maybe
sure.
More pressure washers. I'm pretty easy. I actually had to learn a little bit more about the oil heaters.
Okay.
Waste oil, obviously that's what you're running off of. Are you going to have waste oil kept on site? Is there going to be, what are you having?
No, so a waste oil heater is just picture your furnace in your house.
Yep.
You change your oil in your car, you dump your oil in this thing and it burns oil. So it's
in a contained.
It's an eco, these are, we're eliminating waste oil in our county. and
Sure.
burning it. And we're not doing, we're going to have a heater in this building where we're going to do that, yes. But primarily what we do is we go on site and service these at businesses, at car lots, at farms.
What I'm thinking, if you're servicing any of these there, or are you going to have barrels of this that you're going to have to, okay.
We'll have one 250-gallon tank.
Okay.
Where we will store our oil for the heat that we're going to put in our building. But as far as storing customers, I'll call it oil there.
Yep.
No, there will be none of that.
Biggest reason, just the concerns of any contamination that if you got a leak,
Absolutely.
no, you never want a leak and you never plan, but it can happen. So
There's never going to be more than, I will say, 250 gallons of oil. And that's going to be what's in our tank that we're
and that'll be in a tank. Here's because you're going to have to work through the state and all that as well for your building and permits. Do you know, will they require a compound like a gas, with a concrete lip on it at all for spill protection?
No, they're certified tanks.
Okay.
Through
Okay.
Logic
Okay.
for this. So.
That's just my learning curve.
Basically answering the question.
We've got, not sure how far to go with this, commercially.
Yep.
Does this have to be considered a commercial?
Yes, this is a commercial operation, so you will have to go through the same commercial criteria for any other commercial operation, no matter where they're at. Drainage, CDR, sewage, water, if you're going to have that in the building, drive.
Building having its own septic, and
So-
building having its own well.
So you're probably looking at commercial septic as well as the well. That'll be up to IDEM to determine.
Where will we go to get, all this?
So we have a checklist in our office. We can give you that checklist, and that's going to give you all the directions to work through. And, you know, assuming it gets approved, that the CDR will go through the State Fire and Building, septic, you'll work with State Board of Health. Well, they initially defaulted to IDEM, but my guess is this is getting kicked back to the local guys. Your driveway goes through the county highway department, just like any other driveway cut would be. Your drainage, you'll work with your engineer that's drawing up the plans for any of your hard surface, which I'm assuming is just the building and some outdoor parking areas for your equipment.
Specifics on employees, that kind of stuff?
So you're asked for home-based business, which does allow up to 5 outside employees. I don't know what your.
We won't have more than that.
No, currently have 1.5.
Okay.
What if we expanded to maybe 2 more?
Sure. You'd still be under those parameters.
And the guidelines of that?
Yep. You'd be allowed a 24 square foot sign. You'd work through, get the sign permits for that.
Okay.
Beyond that,
What else was I gonna ask? I think that's about it, I suppose. Is there any way around the commercial side of this stuff?
no.
It means that we're primarily not working in.
You're still a commercial operation that, and we actually ran into this fairly recently. The state still, whether we require it or not, the state's going to require you to get it because you're running an operation out of there, especially if you have any employees. Employees always are a trigger. Otherwise, you know, it keeps the playing field even. That way, commercial operations have the same criteria no matter where they're going. You're getting the bonus of being able to operate on your property there, but still have the commercial regulations.
So when we inherited the property, back in, I don't know exactly when it was, they had zoned it to a point where it wasn't allowed to be subdivided. Originally thought maybe just subdivide a chunk of this.
Mhm.
Can't do that. And so this is what was that? An exception, basically. That we're asking
Exception,
for.
home-based business. Yeah.
Yeah.
You live on the property and that's what opened the door for you to be able to even ask. Yep.
That's it.
I think that's it for us.
Unless you have questions for us.
The oil was a question.
Yeah.
Sure.
How much oil was gonna be there, how it was gonna be contained,
And that's just, yep.
so. Well, is there anyone here in favor of this project?
We do have the letter from Rush on file in support.
Anyone opposed? Close the meeting, public comment, and we'll go ahead and approve it as presented.
You're welcome to stop over to the office, just ask them for a commercial checklist while you're here, and they can give you that. They won't have the file, so they won't know the details of the property, but they can get you that checklist, at least give you the contacts to get started on.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Give me a second here. All right. Last case, Bontrager actually dropped, so we don't have Bontrager. If you've got that on your agenda, they withdrew. So we can jump back up to variance 2025-116 for Jason McGlennon. And this petition for a variance which would permit allowing an open porch to be reconstructed 11 feet from the west right-of-way line and 12 feet from the south right-of-way line. Property is located on the north side of Wells Street and 0 feet east of State Road 15 in Lake Township. We are in Silver Lake and right on 15 right there. And what the petitioner is looking at doing is rebuilding that porch right there because of the setbacks. That's what's got us here today. So for the hearing, legal ad did properly appear in the newspaper and affidavits surrounding property owners were notified.
Not altering the footprint of the porch, just rebuilding it because the wood on the bottom, the deck is bad and the outside board I know is bad when I step on it. It moves and it shouldn't. I'm assuming boards underneath are probably going to be bad too. So everything at the bottom needs.
Rip the whole thing off and restart.
Well, just about.
Yeah. For the record, Jason, your name.
Jason McGlennon.
Thank you.
Property's actually owned by McGlennon Acquisitions, not by me. But I'm managing McGlennon Acquisitions.
We do have a letter on file from the town. They're fully supportive.
Think so.
You never know.
Okay. Down's in favor. Look like there's any remonstrators here.
Nope.
We'll go ahead and approve it as presented.
Thank you.
Before you get started, Jason, just come on and get the permit.
Yep. I'd like to get that this afternoon.
All right. We'll be back over there. I don't know, probably 20 minutes. So if you want to stick around, otherwise anytime this afternoon, it's fine.
All righty. That'll work.
That'll work. All right. Well done. That is it.
Move with
Second